Hi, and welcome to Soft Life and Sips. I am Tash and I am your fabulous, wonderful, beautiful, I don't know, all these things that I tell myself host tonight. Now, let's address the big fat elephant in the room. No, this is not live. This is not a live stream. So you will see this Tuesday, even though I'm still filming it on a Monday night. This is yet the third iteration of Soft Life and Sips. And really that's about, sometimes you got to throw some shit to the wall, see what sticks and see what works and see what's your jam. And obviously I'm experimenting with this so much, with the online sort of space. So, and I'll be like the cooking, live streaming cooking, it's not my thing. I love cooking, but it's my space, right? So having to like direct people, it just, no. So then last week I tried, live streaming yet again, but more as a women's circle / sort of podcast, and I wanted to be something interactive, but it just didn't really feel right to me either. And I think the reality is that when I look at the people that I am trying to reach, which is just women like me, like you, let's be honest, we're not showing up in a live stream space. Well, I know I'm not. I'm not jumping onto Twitch or YouTube Live to jump what people are doing online in the moment. Like, that's not my thing. So if that's not my thing, how do I expect it to be my audience's thing? And if you're anything like me and you're, like a busy mom or anything like that, you just want to be able to watch these things when you have time. So we don't have to go live. Our new little format that we are experimenting with, and it will tweak and change, of course, as we go, is going to be about, we will have a puppy interrupt at times. It's going to be very much about going one take, low editing, and it's pretty much just going to be, it's not going to be polished like my other videos where we're very on topic and things like that. See, now we've got a computer screen, moving, bloody hell, dog. It won't be, like polished and well thought out and like a little 8-minute video. This will be more about, riffing on topics that are just on our minds. So you are more than welcome to submit a topic if it's something that you want to talk about, or alternatively, it'll just, if I don't get submissions, then I will just be talking about things that are coming up in my life for me today. So today, what we're going to do is we are going to actually talk about perimenopause and ADHD. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying I am not a healthcare practitioner. I am not a doctor. I am not here giving you any advice. All I'm doing is sharing my experience and what I've gone through. And if that's something that relates to you or sings home, then amazing, But I do feel like, especially perimenopause, is this really taboo topic that we just don't talk about. And I'm so sorry if the camera wobbles, it is the dog. I swear. He wants to play. He's picked this moment to want to play with me. But back to it is, as I said, it is about perimenopause because it is a taboo topic. It's something that's not talked about. And, for me, when I hit perimenopause, is I felt like I was so underprepared for it and what was going to happen that it took me ages to work out what was going on. And I thought I was going batshit crazy. And if I can just save one other woman from going through that and maybe tell you the things that your mum's not going to tell you, then my job here is done. But before we get into the topic, I thought, I want this to be interactive and I want you to get to know a little bit about me and who I am and what happens in my life, especially as we start doing more homesteading and like really cool shit too. So I just want to sort of tell you about what's going on in my life at the moment. And you'll probably notice that on Friday there wasn't a YouTube video. No, there was. There's not going to be one this Friday. I can't remember. My head is just like literally fucked. But the reason for that is that we have had the biggest of all balls up in our new home with our solar company that we got to do the solar panels on our roof. So the other week, what happened is that we had, especially with the public holiday here in Adelaide, we had a leak in our fresco roof. So the paint's bubbling, the whole lot. And we're like, shit, there is a leak in the roof, and it is from our solar panels. So we called our solar panel company. They sent the technicians back out to come and fix it. They spent 2 hours not being able to find the problem. And we run solely on rainwater out here, with the exception of recycled water that's used for our toilets and our garden. And anything that is recycled water by law has to be really clearly labelled. So this includes having purple taps. So we have purple taps and not like normal taps for that particular one, and a sign above the purple tap that says to do not use, because it's recycled water and it can't be, you can't drink it or anything like that. And without asking, these solar people just grabbed that hose, sprayed down the roof, and of course, all that contaminated water has gone into our very full 45,000 litre rain tanks. And this happened at 11 a.m. on Thursday, and we spent about 27 hours without water. So just think about, I think you don't realise how much for granted you take the water in your home, but not being able to shower, cook, clean, do the dishes, anything like that, drink, hydrate, like a basic need. We weren't able to do that. And the solar company had all day on Thursday to work and fixing it up, and they just didn't. They just ballsed around big time, to the point where it was 5 o'clock. We're getting hung up on. We're doing something about it ASAP, not really realizing the severity of the problem, and which is basically left our house uninhabitable for a period of time. And so as you can imagine, like Thursday night, we were just beside ourselves because we just had no answers, no help, no nothing. They all went home, home to their families, home to shower their kids, that sort of beautiful thing. Then on Friday, and so Thursday night, I had to spend talking to our insurance company, talking to water people, talking to, lodging complaints with CBS, lodging what they did with SA Health and bloody the EPA, you name it. We had to go to town on it, because this was just unbelievable. The amount of damage that they've actually caused is they're going to end up having to fork out more money than what we paid for the solar panels to fix up everything that they've done. Friday was traveling. I had to be on the phone to them every fucking hour, every hour on the hour, just to make sure they were doing what they said they were going to do. And that was getting us emergency accommodation so that we could have somewhere that wasn't too far from home that we could shower, where we could go and cook and just do those day-to-day life things, like fill up the water bowl for the dog and things like that. That finally got sorted. So we had emergency accommodation over the weekend. So we treated it like a pretend little mini holiday, like a little, staycation away locally. It was only, 15 minutes away from our house. And that was fun. Today's now, fast forward, that was Friday. Today is Monday. And when you see this, it will be Tuesday. So tomorrow we have somebody coming out to clean, empty the tanks. These tanks are full too, they're 45,000 litres of water that they have to suck out, distribute, get in, clean the tanks out so that it's not contaminated anymore, and then have another water cartage company come in and fill it up with bulk spring water. It is just crazy. And that's not even fixing the roof problem. Then we have somebody coming to look at the roof, patch up the holes, and then make the recommendations for the actual fixing of the internal alfresco roof. And might I add, this is our brand new home. We've been in here for 3 months, and it's devastating because, I think you don't always know people's journeys or stories, and I think that if you are in an industry where you work on people's homes and you don't give a shit about them, you shouldn't be doing that job. Because these homes, they're the biggest investment one that you'll ever make. And everyone obviously has a real emotional attachment to their home. And our story with our home, it took us 5 years to get our very own home. We started to get into the market just as COVID hit and the property boom happened. So we got priced out of the market. We wanted to buy an established home initially. And we had our, loan amount, which was very reasonable for, a standard sort of 3-bedroom home in the area that we were living. for a nice modest first home. And you know, by the time the loan paperwork and everything all got approved, all the house prices jumped up about $100,000. We couldn't afford crack dens, you know, like it was, these homes are just in the most undesirable locations, in the most undesirable conditions, and you know, that were just former drug houses or also like grow houses. Like it was ridiculous, some of the shit that we were looking at and putting in offers and couldn't get because they were getting bought out by investors. It was just devastating. We did that for 12 months, going to these opens, and it was fucking heartbreaking, and it was exhausting, and it was all these things. Then we decided that we were going to build. Land wasn't going to be ready. We put the deposit down in June of 2021 and told that the land would be ready in December of 2021. The land became ready to build on last year. So all in all, this house has taken us 5 years to get here, 5 years of really hard work. And when you are in that position too, it's like you're saving and you're saving. You almost have to stop living part of your life because you are, you know, saving all your money. So you're not spending because you're going to get scrutinized by the bank of what you're spending your money on. You obviously wanting to put as much money into your deposit as possible. So you're saving as much as possible. So you're sacrificing all these other things, right? Like in a little bit of living and a little bit of life. We also packed up for 12 months because that's what we thought our build time would be, to go live with my dad. And it was just awful, you know, like it was just, you know, forcing these two families in together, you know, my dad, bless him, was a complete hoarder, didn't make any space or room for us. Like we just had to live amongst all the hoarding and the junk. And, you know, my husband and I couldn't even share the same bedroom. Like it was just crazy. As much as it was lovely for the offer of us to have somewhere to stay, it just was not viable for anyone. It was not good. So then we had to find another rental, and then we're paying rent and saving and the whole fucking lot. Like it was the hardest stint of our lives that we ever had to do. So, you know, when it gets to our home and these things are happening, like it is devastating to think that somebody has done a dodgy job on solar, you know, and caused thousands of dollars of damage on our home. You know, like it's incredible. Like it breaks my heart, but here we are. So we definitely, as I go off the screen, we definitely have a drink in hand today because it has been a moment. So as much as it's getting sorted out, like, and obviously I'm here filming it today because we're just using the Airbnb just to shower, for Christ's sake. Like it's just crazy. The poor little Airbnb, it was the cutest little Airbnb. I'm not going to go into too much details about it. It was the cutest little Airbnb, but oh my God, it had the worst beds on the planet. It was like sleeping on wood planks. It was terrible. But the Airbnb itself was really cute though, so I'll say that. But yeah, it was just hard. And I think when you don't want to willingly leave your house and you're sort of forced to, like I think it's a bit different if you book yourself a cute little weekend away that's like you're choosing, but when it's not and you're just like, oh my God. I think that both my hubby and I are in the position of we love a house and we do not want to leave it for the time being. You know, I had to leave my flowers, my garden. Oh, it was devastating. Anyway, it did lead me to think though, actually, a little side note before I get into the topic is that I should start a series that I might start on sort of like shorts and TikTok and stuff about actual reviews, because this is where we got suckered in, is that this company that we chose for solar, they were recommended to us by our in-laws because they went through them, had a really great experience. But then as well, obviously when you do your homework and you go and look at the reviews and everything that everyone said, they've got fucking fantastic reviews. Well, what we worked out is they actually buy their reviews. So if you put a bad review, they go, what can we do to make you change your review to get you to change your review? So, you know, those reviews, like, just don't trust the fucking reviews, especially if they're paid or anything like that. Like even the previous building company that I worked for who built our house, they paid for their reviews as well. So they would give you a gift of $100 gift card for leaving a 5-star Google review. So, and they're the same thing. All businesses have this process when, they get bad reviews of, what can they do to make you change it? So just always take them with a grain of salt. They don't mean shit. So I thought that maybe I should start my own little True Blue Aussie review sort of situation where we can actually review some things and just give our actual honest opinion on it, not the one that people are paying for. I don't know. What do you think? Leave in the comments if you think that's a good idea and you would like me to start reviewing something, because I've got something straight up I want to review. One of those Halara pants. So let me know. Put that in the comments. Okay. Now I've got that all off my chest and we're here. Let's take a drink. Everybody have your drink. I hope you're nice and cozy. I've got my pajamas on. Like, I'm no shame here. Pajamas, slippies, the whole lot. And I have a dog that's looking at me like, what are you doing, Mom? Pay attention to me. You can come up here. Don't look at that door. He's going to look at the door to want to go out, even though he doesn't actually want to go out. It's really annoying. Anyway, I digress. Let's get into it. Let's get into our topic today. So firstly, what I want to do, just to get in the topic, because this is about your time. Bodhi, we're not doing that. This is their time, not your time. Where's your toy? Is I want you to take a really nice deep breath with me, and I just want you to center yourself today, just here in the moment, all right? So it's about you and about your time. So big breath in. We're going to exhale. Now we're going to do it again. This time what I want you to do is it's going to be about just releasing that tension from the shoulders. So we're going to breathe in, and we're going to breathe out, and you're going to pull your shoulders down. Whoa. I don't know about you, but that is such a fucking effort for me to do that, let me tell you. So now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the taboo topic that nobody wants to talk about, and that is perimenopause. Because let me tell you, I am in the thick of it, the thick of it. It is just insane. Like, I can't even deal with where we're at with it. And I just wasn't expecting it. I definitely and the range of symptoms, like, they're just things that you just will not believe, and I sort of got to the point where I just thought, I am going fucking batshit crazy, like actual crazy. Like, I thought I was losing my mind, it just blows my mind. So for me, my symptoms were there was a lot of rage. And I remember the significant point of actually going to the doctors and being like, I need something. All of a sudden, I got to this point where I just wanted to throat punch people. I was so irritable and my fuse was so fucking short. And when I tell you, I wanted to throat punch people, I literally wanted to throat punch people like you would not believe. My other sort of ones as well, I got this, I started, the first physical symptom other than I was getting a little night sweat here and there, but my real first physical symptom was actually started getting heart palpitations. Now, I was someone with really low blood pressure, so I never got heart palpitations, ever. And these just come out of nowhere. I was like, oh my God, I'm dying. Then came an anxiety. So I have this anxiety now too, you wouldn't believe, where it's an anxiety of impending doom. So this anxiety where I feel like, something really bad's going to happen. I'm dying. Someone else is dying. I think the worst. And I get this fear about being in the car too now, where I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to crash and I'm going to die. Or, it is just insane. And I think all the things that I hold close, it's like, oh my God, the house is going to burn down. Or I don't know, something's going to happen to Bodhi, or something's going to happen to Connor or Kyle. It is this fear. I can't even describe it. I get things like plantar fasciitis now when I first get up to try and walk. What else? I don't know, when I look at all the sort of symptoms, I'm like, yeah. and really unusual symptoms as well. Like that's not what I was prepared for. No one ever really spoke to me about it before. And I was like, I need to do something because I am just so, I don't know, frustrated, short-fused, everything. And I thought, this is going to affect my work because I'm going to tell someone to fuck off. Like, I really am. And it's not going to go well. So anyway, I did go and see a doctor. And, you know, obviously, initially when this first started happening, there was like a little while ago and I was like, well, I guess I've just sort of got to suck it up. And, you know, because all the information that I read out there, especially about like hormone replacement therapy or menopause, whatever the fuck they call it now, I don't give a shit, like whatever it's called, is how that was really bad for you and it caused breast cancer and all this sort of stuff. And so I was really afraid of it. I'm like, not doing that. I don't want to do anything that's going to increase my risk of anything. Like, And then what I did is I started doing a lot of my own research. And if this is something that you're going through and this is something that you're, you know, suffering through, because that's what happens is we suffer through it, I just really encourage you to start doing your homework and to look around wherever you can to find out all the information you can and then make that decision for yourself. So for me, what I felt like is that I felt like some of the, and as I said, this is for me, I'm not a doctor, okay? So for me, when it came to making that choice, is that I felt like that some of that information was misrepresented and that it wasn't all the actual truth and that there was a lot more to the picture than what there was. And that's how I felt and that's how I came to make my decision. And my decision was also is because I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't do it anymore. So I needed some sort of help, some sort of relief. And so I made that decision and I went on, so I'm on both estrogen gel, like I take an estrogen gel every day. And then I do Prometrium, which is a progesterone tablet. And I do that as a cycle. So for 2 weeks of every month. And, I'd seen some things too, like I'd seen something like where Oprah Winfrey had popped something down like, oh, the moment I had my estrogen gel, it was like the brain fog just lifted off of me instantly in that moment. And I was like, oh no, that did not happen for me. All right. It did not. So don't buy into the bullshit. Like it really did not happen overnight. And I really analyzed it. It took me a week, right? It took me a week. And then after a week, I was like, oh my God, it was just this big sense of relief. The brain fog started lifting. I felt more chill, like the rage wasn't there. I didn't want to throat punch people on a daily basis. I was just like, okay, we're good. And we're having like a bit more, like I had really bad fatigue and just, you know, all sorts. So that all went. So we were like, I was so happy about that. So I, you know, from that sort of side of things had really good results. So yeah, like there was no way that I could suffer through it. And I don't think that we should have to either. Like we don't have to suffer through it. It's not a badge of honor or all that sort of stuff. I think things have come a long, long way. We have a lot of pre-testing and things that you can do, whether that is, you know, mammograms and pap smears and everything. Bodhi, that's not the greatest spot to do that. You know, we have all these things now in place that you don't have to worry about. Well, not that you have to worry, but there's a lot of testing that you can get, right? Sorry, we need to move the puppy away from the stand. But yeah, so there is a lot of testing and everything that you can get. God, this is really going to be a rough edit. I'm so sorry. But this is life, right? Life doesn't stop just because you want to film a podcast or anything. So let's just keep that in mind, all right? Sorry. So I went down that path, and there we are. So one thing, though, that I am starting to notice is even though I'm doing these things and that has made me feel, you know, relatively like so much better than what I was before I went on that little journey, is that one thing that I have decided that I'm going to be doing is I'm going to go down the route of getting an ADHD assessment done and a diagnosis. Like, I think that this is something that's really, really common in women, is where when they hit perimenopause, that they also then find out that they've had ADHD their whole life. And I was sort of looking into part of the reason why that is, and that's because things like estrogen and progesterone, those hormones sort of help your brain to be able to cope with whatever is going on. And so when those hormones are on a decrease, is that then if you have like high functioning ADHD, that's when it becomes all too prevalent that this is something and that it's a problem, and that you're maybe not batshit crazy, but you actually have something else, like, and sometimes it might be, I guess in my case, look, probably for the last few years, I've sort of like, I think I've got ADHD, but I haven't really done anything about it, because I think in the past too, like, when I look at my own history, is that when I was younger, especially as a teen, like a 17, 18, I was starting to get diagnosed with things like bipolar disorder or mood disorders and popped on mood stabilizers, but it wasn't it, like, especially as I was older, after I had Connor and stuff like that, like I just didn't need to be on antidepressants or mood stabilizers, and I was fine. And I'm not saying that's for everyone, because do not, you know what I mean? Like if you're depressed, you're depressed, like do your thing, right? And just, but there comes a point where you need to work out what is best for you. And for me, I was like, I don't think that is actually what the problem is. And in reality, if you look in hindsight, I think what the problem was is that I had ADHD, but I was diagnosed with depression. So, and mood disorder, and that's really common. That is really common for women with ADHD to be misdiagnosed with mood disorders and depression. So, jump on the old Googs, do a little research, and you'll see that there. So it's an interesting point, because I guess too, something like ADHD, it presents a lot differently in women as well. Like it's not necessarily the hyperactivity that ADHD, assessments were based off in the past. And when we, boys, like I just remember being in primary school and all the boys, they've got ADHD, and they're the ones that are playing up in class and all that sort of stuff. But reality, probably half the girls did as well, but they just masked it, like it's just crazy. So it's one of those things. And then I didn't do it because I was just like, well, is it really going to change anything for me? Because obviously previously, prior to perimenopause, I thought it's manageable, right? Like I'm managing, like I don't think it's really going to change anything for me. I don't think I need to be medicated. So, if I'm doing, I'm doing a lot of therapy and anything anyway, to learn how to best, and I've always had this sort of thing that people need to do what is best for themselves, and everybody is different. And, whether you've got a diagnosis or not, right? Like we're all individuals and we've all got to work out how we best thrive in life. So I've always had that belief anyway. And whilst I didn't think that I would need medication, it was just not something that I worried about getting a diagnosis for. However, I guess what I think has changed, and especially like the more that my estrogen and progesterone levels are sort of fluctuating and changing, is that I do feel like I probably need to be medicated. It says I need to be medicated. No, like I just, like my internal chatter in my mind it's relentless and it doesn't stop. So from the moment I wake up to the moment I actually eventually fall asleep, and I'm a really light sleeper too, so if I wake up in the middle of the night, boom, my brain just goes, and it is noisy. Like I can't describe it. And and if you don't have these sort of things, you probably just like, you are freaking crazy. But it is just so noisy in here. Like it just constantly wheels in motion, and I flip from one thing to the other to, like if I go to do the housework, I might get out the vacuum cleaner and I might start vacuuming and be like, oh, but this needs to be done. So then I'll go do that and then I'll forget about the vacuum and then I'll go to 10 other jobs after that because I've forgotten what I'd started doing to be like, shit, now I need to go back to that. And now it's like, oh, well, now I've lost all the energy to do it. So it just doesn't end up getting done, right? Another sort of thing for me as well. And this is kind of I don't know if it's funny, sweet, romantic. I'm not sure. But, my husband made me aware, he's like, how I constantly leave lights open and drawers and cupboards open. And I've never noticed. I'm like, no, I don't. Like, no, like you're crazy. I don't do that. Look, the lights are off, the cupboards are shut. And my husband so lovingly told me, he goes, yeah, that's because I turn them off and I shut them after you've been through. It's almost like my husband follows me around turning everything off if I've turned it on. And I didn't even notice. That's how bad I was. I didn't even notice that it was happening and I didn't even notice that he was doing it. So, it's just, yeah, it's just that sort of that thing. And it's just like now with everything else going on, I'm like, I think that I need a break. I need to learn how to be able to focus. I think that this has been impacting my life for a really, really long time. And I think, for me, that's now worth the investment. And because that's the thing, right? Getting a diagnosis in Australia isn't an expensive process, right? It's not a cheap process. Unless you're on a healthcare card, having like things like ADHD is a rich man's disease, you have to have the money there to be able to go see, pay out of pocket to go see a psychiatrist to get a assessment. You have to pay out of pocket then to have the follow-up appointments to then get the prescriptions for the medications because it can only be done by them, it's a lot, right? And I think, whatever people think of the healthcare, and that can be another fucking riff. Like in this country, it's appalling, as much as people go, oh, Australia has free healthcare. No, we don't. If you are, if you are on things like Centrelink and stuff like that, you will have a healthcare card and yes, you will be able to access free healthcare. But the moment that you're not eligible for that, you have to pay. And even if you're on a low income job, but just out of the threshold of, Centrelink or healthcare card, then, healthcare becomes something that only people who can afford it can do. And I definitely could not afford it in the past. Like I'm fortunate, I guess, that I'm in a little bit of a different position now where it is something that I can afford. But previously it was not something that I could afford to get that sort of, I couldn't afford it. Plain and simple, it was outside of my reach. So, and that's how it is in Australia. Like there's just a lot of things that unless it's an emergency, it's healthcare's for the rich. So yeah, I don't know. Does anybody else relate with any of this? Has anyone else gone through perimenopause? I would love to know because I don't have friends who have gone through peri. Like when you have like your sort of group of friends and everything like that sometimes you might be the first. And that seems to be the way that it is for me. I've got a lot of friends that are younger than me, slightly younger than me or whatnot. So they're not quite there yet. So I guess I'm going to navigate it on my own. So I'd love to know, is perimenopause something that you've gone through? Is it something that you've sought treatment for? Are you doing that hormone replacement or have you just found other ways to deal with it? Did it send you batshit crazy or was it I can handle this? I would love to know. I think it's really interesting to see different people's experiences with these things, right? I just think it's just, I don't know, really, really interesting. But, then on the plus side, I would love to know, do you have ADHD? What has been your experience with ADHD and ADHD medication? How are you medicated? I don't know, tell me about it. And did it make a difference to you? I would just, and then bonus points if you're perimenopause and just found out that you have ADHD as an adult. I would just love to hear your journeys because this is something that I am sort of going through and that's why I wanted to talk to you about it because I don't ever want this to feel like these are things that we go through on our own or that we're not prepared for in life. Like I hate that. Like, and I hated feeling, for me, like, because I think that things like working out that you have ADHD or going through that assessment process is really fucking lonely, all right? Like because you feel like, what is wrong with me? And you feel like you've never been able to belong, or, and no one understands you, and you feel so disconnected because people aren't talking about it, right? And then the same with like perimenopause. Like you hear a lot, like it's like, you sort of think you hear about puberty and you go through puberty, and then you hear about childbirth, and, but sometimes you don't hear about heaps about childbirth until you've done it, and then it's like, and you hear about menopause, but you don't hear about that bit of how you get to menopause, like menopause at the end is like, I don't know, like I feel like the perimenopause, that's the fucking shit show, right? It is the shit show. So yeah, tell me about it. Connect, tell me, share, save me. I don't know. I am going to wrap it up there though. So, look, I want to thank you. As I said, these ones on a Tuesday night, these are just going to be really raw, little almost like fireside conversations, whatever you want to call them. Sometimes they'll be here when the weather, turns to spring or summer. We'll head outside and just have these beautiful little chit chats about whatever's going on in life. As I said, if you have things that you want to talk about, pop it in the comments and we can do that for next week's topic. But, I just want to thank you. Thank you for putting up with that. And even though my dog decided to knock down the camera and I had to stop halfway and all those things, we're real, we're raw. This is real talk. So thank you. Thank you so much for your time today. And as I said, like if it resonates, leave a comment. Subscribe if you're not already, and don't forget to check out the Friday episodes. They're obviously, if I'm saying a little bit more polished, on topic, and very sure it's your thing. Those are for you as well. But I will see you Monday next week for it'll be Tuesday next week. Silly me. Tuesday next week, because I will film on the Monday. But I can't wait to see you, and I want to thank you for your time. So have a great week. Set yourself up for some success. Do something you love. Take a deep breath. All right? We have got this. Mwah!